Hey, Phil.
Hello. Hello.
Well, thanks for inviting me to join you here for this conversation. It's been a year now that you have moved to Bali,
Pretty much within a
and
day, a few days. Yeah.
yeah, so just wanted to record a chat together about your experience and how that's been for you. So yeah,
And you're
let's.
here because it's your fault.
Yeah, right. And I'm also here to take the blame.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. What are good friends for?
So, wow, it's been when's the actual day you moved to Bali?
So I left the UK on 19th of October and I
Okay.
arrived here 20th of October.
So let's go back to we're in 2019.
Mm.
When was the moment that you decided? Because I know for a long time you've been playing with the idea for about 10 years of leaving Ipswich. It was like something that you've been playing with. When was the moment you stopped playing with the idea and it became a decision and a project?
It's funny because I struggle to remember a time in my adult life when I wasn't toying with the idea of like leaving my hometown and leaving England, but bringing up a family and stuff, and then yeah. But anyway, so in answer to your question, well, of course, I think you know, but yes, I was with you. The whole Bali thing actually had been in my mind predominantly, or prominently rather, it had been in my mind prominently from about March 2019. And, I got a video from my dear friend Mark and from Emily here. The two of them were together. They said, I can remember this. I was in Greece, and suddenly this video appears on my phone, and it's the two of them together saying, "Come to Bali, Phil. We'd love for you to come here. Come on." And I was really, really touched by that video. And yeah, coming to hang out with you in Barcelona in mid June um, was when I felt like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm gonna move to Bali, and I acted on that decision the day after I got back from Barcelona, when I actually wrote a letter to give notice on my apartment.
So would you say that there was kind of like, when you look back, is it like a foggy memory of that time, or was there like a specific moment where it stopped going from playing with it with like, oh yeah, that's my next step. That's it.
I think hanging out with you and the conversations we were having had helped me see how much I really wanted to do it, like getting honest about it instead of
Yeah.
being distracted by the excuses, and also getting honest about the excuses, because we all want to do stuff in life, right? Oh, I would love to do this, but here's why I'm not. And just hanging out with
Hmm.
you, I realized how much I really did want to do that, and that was
Yeah.
twofold: not just move to Bali, but move out of Ipswich. And then,
Right.
just as you so often do with me, help me see the utter bullshit that I was telling myself that was in
What
the
was the
way.
utter bullshit? Like, what was that? The utter bullshit you were telling yourself? Like, was there like a specific excuse that you really kind of that looked real to you?
Um, there was not one that was particularly bigger than another. My business wasn't doing great at the time. It was very, very bumpy, and I felt I wanted to more consistent income. There was a couple of clients that I knew that I would probably lose. One in particular that we'd already agreed, when I'd mentioned it, and they'd already agreed that they would fall away. What I wanted was safety. I wanted
Hmm.
safety, as we also often do. I wanted safety and security. And if somebody offered me a permanent job on X amount per year and said, come to Bali and I'll pay you this for the next 3 months or even 6 months, then I would have said, okay, cool. That was what I wanted. I wanted some certainty,
Hmm.
actually.
Yeah.
I wanted some
So you wanted,
certainty.
yeah, you wanted certainty, safety, and security, but yet leaving to Bali you knew very well it wouldn't give you. What changed? Like,
I realized I would be okay if it didn't work out, and
mhm,
I came back with my tail between my legs even after a couple of weeks. Although I said I'm definitely 100% giving it at least a month, like, because I didn't want to come here with the vacation mindset,
mhm,
of just, I'm not here to stay. I wanted to
mhm.
dive in and to be here to stay. And there were
Yeah,
some reasons that were compelling for me. That Emily and I were already very good friends, and you were, there was your plan was to also be in Bali, yeah. And I'd got, a very dear friend of mine. We've been friends since I was 16. Was already living here and still is. And friendships in my hometown, there were some significant friendships, and one of 30 odd years, a couple of over 20 years that had dissolved. And
yeah,
so there was the desire to move to a warmer climate. I didn't realize it was going to be as freaking wet as this. Or maybe we'll come to that, but also to leave. Like there was a
yeah,
desire to leave and start afresh and to let go of a lot of stuff. So just seeing that it just made more sense. It's like as simple as
yeah,
that. In that weekend I spent with you, it's like it became inevitable
yeah,
because it just made so much sense.
yeah. And as all the excuses fell away and you could follow sort of common sense, you got to also, because I'm hearing you say let go, you got to let go of everything you'd been hoarding for years. Like, how was that?
I mean, physically, it's the second or third time that I'd done it. I mean, in a physical sense, with like physical belongings and
Mhm,
stuff. When I moved into that apartment, I moved in when I left my marriage, and we had the beautiful house and the car and everything like that. Really beautiful lifestyle, and we hired the biggest skip. I guess it would be called a dumpster or whatever in the US. We hired the biggest
mhm,
skip that you could hire, and I filled it with stuff, just getting rid of it. Like literally, that's just being dumped. And then, I moved into that apartment thinking I'm going to stay there for 6 months whilst I work out what I really want to do with my life, AKA what I'm courageous enough to do, if you like. Right. And just got really, really comfortable there and started getting loads of processions together and stuff and nesting and hoarding. But there wasn't just stuff either. There was the routine, there was the familiarity, there was the friendships. So that was it really was a huge part of um, that moment. Apart from, like, there's my dear mother, bless her, she's 85 now. So, there was some narrative around that, around leaving my mother. And
mm,
I've got three siblings that all live within an hour of where I was living. But friendships, like so many friendships, had for reasons that some I still don't know. But anyway, those friendships that played a really important part, and in the decision to me. So thinking, okay, I've got no friends here. There's some really lovely people, some people that I love dearly, already living in Bali. I want to leave here. It really just made sense to go. So I was letting go of hoarding all of that attachment. Like I would go to Greece for a couple of weeks at a time and then always be really happy to come back to the comfort of my apartment and the known of that. Oh, this is nice. And it is when you've got your own place, everything is exactly as you want it and stuff. All of that. But it was the moment I touch on that instantly now, I can see the unhealthy aspect of that. Of just I was just existing a lot of the time. It really was just existing. Um And even there were times when my business, all right, it would be bumpy, and for a few years, it hadn't gone particularly as I wanted to. I'd have a couple of months that were great, and then really barren spells. And yeah, I guess I would sum it up that I wasn't feeling alive. I wasn't. I noticed that's what's different now. Is I
mhm.
do feel much more alive now, and I actually feel much more free and lighter. And I have let go of a lot of stuff. Letting go of 30-odd year friendships, probably 40-year friendships, and that hurts, and it still hurts occasionally. When I allow myself to like think about that and dive into that. And the familiarity, I think I've already said, I'd also known, like being in this kind of work, that there was a me underneath
Mhm.
all of that, or I didn't know it. I was getting a sense of it. It's like I've come to see that that was going on, having stepped out of it. But there were occasionally I'd just get a sense, hang on, Phil, there is a you underneath all of this that you're hoarding and harboring and holding on to. There's a you that you don't really know, yet. And yeah, like a year later, I really like that guy.
Amazing. Well, the time between then, you packed your bags, you emptied your apartment, you said goodbye to your friends and family, you paid a visit to your mother. And actually, what was it like to tell your mother you're leaving?
My mom, she's just amazing. I mean, I guess actually because it sounds like a real boring old fart, but actually, aside from moving to Bali, I guess I have been reasonably adventurous in my life. So actually, her response is, "Well, I'm never surprised at what you want to do." And again, because I'd spoken for years I think everybody thought I would end up moving to Zakynthos full time because I'd spend quite a bit of time there, or to Spain, wherever, somewhere perhaps in Europe. And she wasn't particularly surprised at all. She was, in fact, without exception, everyone was very encouraging, very supportive, very, very supportive and very encouraging. Like there was a couple of things that I'd made up, as you know, like I'd made up a couple of dependencies, more than a couple, but particularly in my business, I created a couple of dependencies. I'm like, okay, if this happens, that happens, then I'll book the flight. And I moved out of my apartment at the end of July, thinking I'll spend 6 weeks or so in the UK, kind of like really taking some time with my family and visiting some friends, and then leave at the beginning of September. But things hadn't worked out in my business, so I didn't book a flight. And I had that I had a conversation with you. I know it was on the 6th Sunday, the 6th of October, and I could just see, and just I'm still playing the game, of waiting and holding on. And I think you said, "How about you book the flight now and then call me back?" And
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah, how about you book the flight now and then call me back? Right? Yeah. Okay, so I booked the flight for just under 2 weeks. After that, in 2 weeks' time, I thought, oh, I still need 2 weeks to sort things out, and it was perfect actually that time, because even though it took me a month to move out of my apartment, and I spent a lot of time with my sister, bless her, my eldest sister, really beautiful. But I also noticed then, getting quite comfortable again here. This is nice. This is a very nice lifestyle, and I knew that I wasn't honoring the reason I'd given up my apartment in the first place. So that conversation with you kind of was that kick up the arse that I needed, and I booked the flight, and then just really got stuff in order. And yeah, it was. Actually, I think I would be lying if I said it was scary, because it didn't feel that scary. It was, I mean, it was significant. There's something significant going on here, but I didn't feel like, oh, I'm scared, and therefore it took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Because by that time, it just felt so inevitable. It was just
and I remember feeling the excitement in you.
Yeah.
Like I'd never felt before. You were like a little boy that was so excited, like as if Christmas was coming, and it was so beautiful to see that in you, and something woke up in you.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you want to share about that experience? And the 2 weeks later, and arriving, actually moving to Bali. What do you want to share about that time?
Oh gosh, it was such a shock. It was such a shock, and kind of a bit of delayed shock, because I've traveled a fair amount and woke up in new surroundings and what have you. But it actually took 10 to 14 days. I actually wrote a piece on Facebook. I might, add it to the comments wherever I share this, where I found it really, really tough. Come on, like here's the thing, I'd never even visited Indonesia before. The furthest I'd been, I'd been to Sharm el Sheikh, a very touristy place, to scuba dive in the Red Sea in Egypt. And then after that, I'd been to Hong Kong and Macau and stayed in a 5-star hotel running a leadership workshop and stuff. So I'd never had any kind of real kind of exposure to what it's like to be in a developing country. Greece is you could say it's a developing country. They wouldn't like that, but it's very rudimentary. But Bali, wow, it's hard to put into words. So there were. So I arrived on the Sunday, like the Friday, almost 2 weeks after that, I had a real sobbing session. I'd got ill. I've got the Bali belly, and I just. I don't know. I think I started the writing that it felt like, gosh, sometimes I can drown in the loss of it all. Very eloquent, but yeah, that's what it felt like. It did feel like, oh my gosh, what the fuck have I done? Because there was a couple of things here hadn't really worked out as I had hoped, and I just felt. There are aspects to living in Bali. You can see the paradise aspect. We all see that, and everybody shares beautiful stuff on Instagram, right? It's a very Instagrammable place to live. But it's not easy living here. As you know, we've discussed this. Like, it took me nearly a day to get data working on my mobile phone.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that I had never even realized that were, in little old Ipswich, and certainly in Europe for the most part, are just really, really convenient. They're so easy. And yeah, so there were a lot of aspects to being in Bali that were a shock that perhaps people don't, of course they don't share that, because people come to Bali on a holiday or they're living here. I don't share like very much of I'm generally pretty open, but I don't know, there's a matter of respect. Like, I'm here as a guest, so I don't want to be saying, oh, Bali's a shit place, which it absolutely isn't. I love the place, but I don't want to show like the shit side of Bali, because to me that's kind of disrespectful. If you have a one-on-one conversation with me, a personal conversation with me, then of course I would share. But nobody says, oh, look at all this rubbish,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some. Gosh, I hope my mother doesn't watch this, which I think she will. So here goes. But I looked to hire a motorcycle, and I felt a bit uneasy. The guy, this particular guy, I'm not going to generalize. This particular guy, I just felt he was trying to get as much money out of me as he possibly could, and he could sense that I was still jet lagged, shall we say, as in I'm a new arrival. So it's like, I just felt it clearly overcharging me for renting this motorcycle, and he was, of course. I mean, he was going to charge me double what I'm paying now, and we'd even like counted out the money, and then when I gave him the money, he counted it, and there was a 100K bill. He was claiming it was a 100K bill short. So at that point, I realized, oh yeah, okay, let's just not do this. Not got a great feeling about this. So I just took the money and I took the receipt. I tore the receipt up and I said, let's just not go. Let's just not bother. And he just went into one and was really laying to me, and he cursed me. He even said, you will die in a bud. You will die in a bud.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that didn't feel great. Accommodation, I spent a lot of time looking for accommodation. Gosh, so it really was a culture shock, and it was just, in fact, really, it was just a contrast between the really comfortable, cushy life that I had in my luxury apartment near the waterfront in Ipswich, and staying in a little pokey tourist one-room place in Bali, fighting off mosquitoes and trying not to get food poisoning and working out what should I eat and all that other stuff which you're familiar with as well. So it was a real, like my friend says, Bali can tear you to shreds if you spend time here. And I think in a way
He
it
says
kind of
Bali
did
can what?
tear
Yeah,
you to
yeah,
shreds. And in a way it feels like
yeah,
that. It has torn away all of that stuff, because I
yeah.
realized there's a lot of stuff that I thought was important that really isn't. There's stuff that we think is important that you just can't allow to be important living somewhere like this.
And then, I want to acknowledge you for staying, because despite all of that, it sounds quite tumultuous, and everything. You could have easily made up like, oh, Bali isn't for me. There's a saying in Bali, people that live there, they say, when you come to Bali, it either welcomes you or it spits you out. And it's easy to experience all those things and feel like, oh, Bali isn't welcoming me. Clearly, I'm being spat out, so I might as well just get out, which is what I did. Like I left after 2 months, but you didn't. You stayed, and I appreciate that. How despite everything you were going through, you knew that there was almost like a something for you to explore in coming to Bali, and even if it was nothing like what you had hoped for or expected. And there's also a friends you had in Bali as well. Was that anything different than what you expected in how you got to meet those friends or even meet new friends?
Yeah, I've not made many new friends here, even still now. And there's a in some respects, I feel a bit of a freak here because I'm a bit normal in that I'm not searching. I mean, I probably was when I arrived for something outside, but I'm not searching constantly searching for a better version of me. And particularly here in Ubud, you're inundated with that. I mean, it's very quiet now, but even like on Facebook, there are still events and stuff going on, and you're absolutely bombarded with, having better sex, being more masculine, being more spiritually aligned with your pencil sharpener. I mean, it's just you're just bombarded with it, and I kind of don't really have much of an interest. I'm like I'm not perfect, and I'm good with that. Like I'm messy, and yeah, of course I want to be the best version of me, but not through coming from a place of feeling inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
So
So what's it like sitting in Ubud, listening to conversations in a cafe, and just like what are the like? I mean, you even wrote a whole post about that, which had me hysterical, because
I do find it funny.
you do feel like, in a way, in Ipswich, you're not normal because you're very Ubudian, but in Ubud, you all of a sudden you feel very normal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this friend will mind me sharing it. She would see the funny side, and I'm not going to name her anyway. But was it December? Doesn't really matter when it was, but we were actually on the island of Sumbawa, and this friend is a mutual friend of Emily and mine. But anyway, it's just a friend, so I'm just making a point that it's not Emily. We'd spent quite a long day with a lot of people, and it was middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, or whatever. She's sitting in the car, so I was just going, "Hey, how are you doing?" And she says, "I've just felt that I'm not always in something like," I'm paraphrasing completely, this is like the gist of it. "I realize I'm not always in alignment with people, and sometimes the energy is just too much for me, or and I'm feeling really drained. There's some really low vibration going on there, and I've noticed that's dragged my vibrational energy down as well. So I wanted to come here and just really get grounded in my own vibration, perhaps, or whatever." And she said something like, I mean, I think that went on. She said more than that, and She said, "How are you?" I said, "Oh, I felt a little bit peopled out as well, so I thought I'd take a little walk." And that's it. I mean, really, it's yeah, that's, actually in this moment, reflecting on it, it seems like there's a constant quest to to change what occurs naturally in being human. And you and I are probably all about that, helping people actually to love all aspects of being human. So it's like, if I feel a bit shit about something, I don't need to make it mean anything. It's just, I just feel a bit shit at the minute. Well, it doesn't have to be to do with the moon phase and that I haven't recharged my crystals for a month or whatever. It doesn't have to mean anything like that. So yeah, I do feel a bit of a freak. I want to say, like, there's some lovely people here, and I've got like this one friend in particular. We'll laugh about that stuff. Like, she messaged me the other day because we hadn't seen each other for a few weeks, and she said, "How about we meet in the most God, what's the word? It's fallen from me. Anyway."
Or the
It's
most
like,
highly vibrational
no,
place
it
that's
wasn't.
alive
She was
on.
joking about it. It's just, yeah, it was something like that. And gosh, that's embarrassing. So the word's gone from me. Anyway, I knew exactly where she meant. I said, "Yeah, I'll see you at Alchemy at 2:00," kind of thing. Yeah, it's funny. It's a really, really beautiful place, and I already feel like we use that term where a place can get under your skin. Right. And I'm sure you know this. In fact, when I spoke to you, I think the other day, and you said, "Oh, I really miss that whole like eating out scene in Bali." Like, because you eat out, you can have a really beautiful meal for, €5 kind of thing. And the people here really are friendly and really chilled. And I'm sure that non-Indonesian people are a source of much amusement to Indonesians and Balinese people as to how we make life complicated. But having said all that, you know what, Philip? It could say people come to Bali to find themselves, and I probably have done exactly that.
Bali is at times gets under your skin. I heard you say. And recently, I've been hearing you speak about Europe more and more in our conversations, and at the same time, feeling you've been through lockdown in Bali. You went through the whole COVID episode in Bali. What do you want to share about that, and about sort of what it looks like now, and sort of what's the kind of thinking you're having about the future?
I don't think I'm going to be based in Bali or based in Asia, at least not throughout the whole year. I wrote about this very recently. I think even just yesterday I might have touched on it, but there's things about Europe that there is a convenience of living in a developed country, which, until you spend significant time in a developing country, pass you by. And as I touched on a post just yesterday, that we can't know what we'll miss until we're perhaps detached from it. So the thing that seems to have fallen away, and at least for now, I don't know, I might start engaging in that activity again, is that searching of, there must be something better than this, there must be something more than this, and there's something out there that will complete me, fulfill me, or help me see something about myself. But what this year has done is helped me see that there's a guy in here who actually can be happy anywhere.
Yeah.
It can be happy anywhere.
And what I'm hearing there is, where you are becomes less important about you being happy with where you are.
Totally. I mean, I think I created a meme a few years ago that just says, the best way to be happy is to love where you are,
Hmm.
but actually to love, not to love the place, but just to love wherever you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
love where you are and love where you are. But so there are, I mean, it's not simple, because of friendships, relationships and stuff here. So it's not simple, okay, I'm coming back to Europe. But my plan, I have like a vision of a life in Europe and in the UK and hanging out. I want to hang out I've got some really dear friends in Europe, like you and friends in Spain. Certainly quite still other friends in the UK, not necessarily in my hometown, but my son's there and my mother's there, my brother and two
Yeah.
sisters and stuff. And also there's a lot of places in Europe that I love. I love Greece. I love Zakynthos. So it's like, I guess Bali was an experiment. It was an experiment. It never felt to me, and I remember telling my mother when we were having that conversation, well, I have no idea how long I'm going to stay. I know I'm going to stay a minimum of a month. And I have a kind of plan that I'll be back after 6 months. I'll be back like April showers. And, so I guess it's also the fact with COVID, there's been travel restrictions here. So I haven't left the island of Bali since I got back from Vietnam at the end of January. And I guess without the sea stuff going on, the flights are fairly easy in other parts of Asia and whatever here. And Australia's only 3-hour flight as well. But it's just a simple preference here in that there's people and places and things that I want to do in Europe. And also I miss the cold. I miss the really fresh, crisp air. I miss seasons. Bali has 2 seasons, hot and wet. And yeah, I do miss that. I miss those seasons. And I think I'll probably shooting myself in the foot, and I'll go back to the UK and experience grey drizzle for days on end and want to delete this video. But right now, some reprieve from 30-degree days has a lot of appeal.
Mm-hmm. To the people that are watching this, I know this whole video came from you saying a lot of people have been asking you, hey, Phil, how's Bali?
Mm.
So you figured, you'd make a video to answer that question. What else do you want to say to people that ask you, hey, Phil, tell me, how's Bali?
Great question. I don't think anybody's going to like this answer. How's Bali? Feels like it's a place you have to experience for yourself. And I thoroughly recommend that you do that. I was a friend of mine, Jane, used to, really push me like, come on, Phil, you really need to go and spend a month in the mountains with the Greeks. Get out of your suburban, comfortable life. Like, there are probably few people who were more suburban, comfortable, I'll say it, white privileged as well, like in many respects had life comfortable and easy, even though there are times I felt I struggled with stuff. I can see overall, yeah, that was kind of all in here. And I've come here, and as you said, yeah, I've stayed a year, and there's been some significant reasons for that. There's been a few times where I feel like bailing out, but I haven't wanted to bail out of a particular relationship here, and so I've stayed primarily because of that. And I think, what's Bali like? It's a beautiful place. It's beautiful people, some beautiful food, and it will also, whilst at the same time, probably show you what you love about your existing life too.
know, as you're sharing that with me, I'm just looking at you and I'm like thinking of Bali as I see paintings you have, and I know that the top one is probably in Greece.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, I wanted, and I see there's a book that you've published, The Colors of My Heart. Um, how have you found Bali as a place for creatives and for you as a creator?
I said I've been a bit of a hermit actually. I haven't really mixed with many people here. I mean, I've made a couple of friends
Hmm.
in my area, but there are great places. Although it's very quiet here. So actually, the people we see now are very familiar faces. I think 90% of um, foreign nationals, is that the right term? 90% of foreign nationals have probably left, and but there's real opportunity for community, particularly here. There is.
Mm.
It's really easy to get involved in community here, and a creative community as well. And also, it's hard really to say, would I be in touch with this creativity that's always been in me if I wasn't distracted by the dream? Because there was a dream that had become a reality and has taught me about reality, right? There was a dream of leaving Ipswich. And gosh, I can remember going to my favorite cafe in Ipswich and writing. And then I'd be distracted because I'm dreaming of being somewhere else, dreaming of being somewhere else. And here, the only place I kind of dream of actually is being back in England, which is kind of funny.
So it's
Um,
kind of like the same things going on in a different context.
yeah, but not so much now. Like I think I'm much more
Hmm.
just present to be in here. So creatively, it's really easy to meet. There's so many different people here, entrepreneurs and
Hmm.
like photographers, you name it. If anybody you wanted to get in contact with for a business, you could just mention in a group, hey, can anybody recommend somebody in Ubud or in Bali who does this? Yeah, and I guess there's that camaraderie as well that you don't get just from oh, you happen to live in London. Like, people who live in London daren't make eye contact, whereas here we hug each other, even though we don't know each other. Like there's a real warmth and community here. So it's beautiful in that respect. And yeah, you touched on the book, the Pink One, Colours of My Heart. That's just a collection of poems. And I just had this idea. I wonder if I can publish all of my poetry in a book in a day. And I had this idea at like 8:30 one night, and by 3 p.m. the following day, I'd hit publish on Amazon and did that. And that's the second book. The other one, which is a bit glossy, is so I did this as well this year. So published two books. Published two
Wow.
books this
Yeah.
year, and that was a real. I think I am more creative, but I would be a fool to say I'm more creative because I'm in Bali, because the
Hmm.
creativity is there. It's always there. It's what's to look at is, well, how am I obscuring that? What am I
Hmm.
giving my energy and focus to? In actual fact, what is it that I'm using my creative energy for? It can be creating a story that I'm not creative, creating a story. Oh, I need to be somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I've noticed you've lost weight as well. Like you've had a physical transformation as well since your move to Bali. And even people that see you, they're like, "Oh, Phil, you look different." What's like, what have you noticed about that?
I didn't try to do that, by the way. I mean, before I came, I lost a few pounds. I wanted to lose a few pounds, and I see the pictures of you and me in Barcelona. I'm like, oh my god, he was so fat. Um, and it hasn't been a straightforward dive. There's like lose a bit, gain a little bit, maybe stay there. But there's the bigger picture, probably over like 3 or 4 years, is about 56 pounds or so, which is what, 25, 27
Mhm.
kilos. That's when I think
It's
about
huge.
a
Yeah.
sack of potatoes, it's like
Yeah.
50 odd pounds, isn't it? So it's more than that.
Since
So
when?
uh, that's over the last 3 years. But like I
That's
say,
25. Yeah, 25 kilos in 3 years.
yeah, 27 currently. But, and then it goes up a
27. That's
couple of kilos and
mm,
whatever. When I got here, I didn't put any effort into that at all. But my lifestyle
hmm
changed. You know, I would drink beer, not all the time, but 2 or 3 days a week. I'd have some beers and stuff, and then eat crap and stuff, and snack and things like that. And I just stopped doing that. I mean, occasionally I'd have a drink here, but it was no longer like part of my life.
hmm
And yeah, it's really easy to eat healthily here without giving it a second thought. It really is very, very easy. So it feels like there was some weight loss before I got here, but yeah, most of that has probably fell off since I've been here. And I definitely feel different, feel lighter. I don't know. We could say, oh, I changed inside and therefore it changed outside. I don't know, Philip, but
Yeah. But there's definitely be a transformation physically.
there has been a transformation physically,
Yeah.
and there's also definitely a transformation internally. There definitely
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
transformation internally of just just laughing because this I take so much less stuff seriously. And there's a trick there. Like when you stop taking so much stuff seriously, you can't help but be happier. That's actually basic maths if you look at it. It's like,
Yeah. And when you do take stuff seriously, you get over the seriousness a lot quicker.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you notice it's like, yeah, I was kind of taking that a little seriously. And then there's I've always appreciated that in you, because whenever you share something with me at the time that looked really serious, there's already almost just laughter within you because you're catching yourself out about how serious it was. And then all of a sudden, like that, it's just lightness. And from that place, everything just looks different and just not such a big deal anymore. So yeah, I've definitely seen more of that in you, Phil.
it's. I don't know. I might be fooling myself. Of course, I can't possibly really know, but I just feel whatever happens, okay.
Yeah.
Like really, okay, whatever happens. Like if years ago, oh, the thought of losing my apartment and spending all my savings or anything like that, even when I had a job, I didn't want to lose my job, and losing clients. It just it was a much bigger deal than it is now. And the same with relationship. What happens in a relationship? I mean, I have some pretty strong preferences, but I just know, okay, like, okay, whatever happens, I'm kind of cool with that. And gosh, a year ago, if somebody
Mhm.
said, well, if you go to Bali, you've got to stay for a year, I don't know that I would have come. Like I wanted to get out, and I intended to go back and go to Zakynthos in May and stuff like that. Whereas, okay, at the moment, I mean, I could leave, but I then have no idea when I'd be able to come back. And there's a couple of other things at play as well in that as to the timing of when I do leave. So I'm kind of looking at that and thinking, yeah, I'm ready to leave. Okay, probably going to be staying another month at least. Okay, that's cool. Like it doesn't really matter. And then if somebody shows up that there's something I really need to be in Europe for, okay then. Like and I would probably call you at those times where I'm a bit worked up about it and I am taking it too seriously, and you will hold that mirror up and I will chuckle. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing all that, Phil. I think
Yeah, thank you.
no, I enjoyed just listening to your stories and hearing about your experience, and excited for where you are now and who knows what's next, and how
Yeah.
you're so okay with just, whatever shows up and how things evolve. Um, I feel this is just like a beautiful place
Hmm.
to complete this conversation. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that? Is there
Yeah,
anything you
totally.
feel like we want to add to it, or?
No, I'm good with that as well. And if anybody, wherever I post this, if they want to ask some questions, I'm more than happy to answer. But yeah, it's been a really wonderful experience. It's been one of the best things I've ever done, and it's been one of the toughest things at times, but definitely one of the
Mhm.
best things I've done. And
So just to finish, Phil, there's something I want to hear from you. I want you to share what are the words you've learned in
Oh no, you're going to embarrass me.
what can you say in the local language? Is it Bahasa?
I'm now ashamed because I can say
What
Makassi,
yeah.
which is thank you, and pretty much it. Pretty much
You
it.
can say good morning. I've heard you say good morning.
Oh yeah, but not even good morning now. I just say morning, which is Pagi. So I just
Well,
say that. Not even good morning. That I could say, is it Salamat Pagi? I think
there
perhaps.
you go. Salamat pagi.
And yeah, it's appalling, isn't it? How British is that? Like, no, we don't need to learn your language. You learn ours. Yeah, it's appalling. But then it's like, oh yeah, but I'm not staying, so it doesn't matter. Thank you, Philip. Thank you. Always love chatting with you, but thank you for helping me share this. And I've enjoyed it. If whether anybody else does, that's up to them.
I had fun too. So thanks for creating this, and best of luck with everything coming your way.
Thank you.